Will Trump's new $100,000 H-1B fee turn out booming IT industry into a ticking time bomb? For decades, Indian IT stocks were the safe bet, reliable, steady, and a favorite for middle-class investors. But overnight, that image is cracking with the single signature of US President Donald Trump has slapped a $100,000 fee on every new H-1B visa, and now panic is spreading across Dalal Street. Hello viewers, I'm Kavya Khandelwal and you're watching The Edge. In this video, we are breaking down how this one policy change is shaking up the stock market, threatening India's $245 billion IT sector, and what it means for your portfolio, your job, and maybe even your dream of working in the US. For years, Indian IT was the crown jewel of the stock market, the dependable sector you turn to when everything else was volatile. Whether it was Infosys, TCS, Wipro or HCL, these companies had one unbeatable formula: send Indian engineers to the US on H-1B visas, deliver projects on site and bring home the dollars. But that model is now under threat. On Friday, US President Donald Trump signed an executive order that increased H-1B visa costs from about $1,000 to a jaw-dropping $100,000, a nearly 100-fold jump. It's a one-time fee for new visas, but the impact is massive because Indian IT companies are by far the biggest users of this visa. Nearly 70% of all H-1B visas every year go to Indians. This means companies that rely on sending thousands of workers to the US will now have to pay tens, even hundreds of millions more every year, or rethink their entire business model. The US accounts for 55 to 60% of India's IT exports. That's more than half the revenue for most big IT players. When a cost like this is suddenly added to the equation, it hits not just margins but also investor confidence. And that's exactly what we are seeing. The stock market reaction has been brutal. The Nifty IT index is already down nearly 16% in 2025, while the broader Nifty is up 7%. Oracle Financial Services has dropped almost 30%. HCL Tech is down over 23%. For a sector once seen as defensive, safe from geopolitical shocks or market volatility, this is a huge reversal. Ashwani Shami, a top portfolio manager, says it bluntly: Indian IT is no longer the safe bet it was 15 years ago. His firm dumped all IT holdings back in January, citing slow growth and rising policy risks. And now, with Trump's visa bombshell, even long-term investors are heading for the exit. Here's the real problem. Number one, large IT firms might survive by absorbing the costs, cutting jobs, or raising prices for clients. Number two, smaller and mid-cap firms, they might not survive at all. For them, $100,000 per employee isn't just a hit to profits, it's an existential threat. Many will struggle to bid for new US contracts, or they'll have to scale back operations altogether. And when companies hesitate to expand abroad, their revenue growth slows, their valuations fall, and investors panic. The fallout is bigger than just stock prices. It's changing the entire industry playbook. Margins under pressure. Analysts expect IT firms' EBIT margins, which is earnings before interest and tax, to fall by up to 8.5%. Even with countermeasures like offshoring and price renegotiation, Morgan Stanley estimates a 3 to 4% drag on profitability. That's a big deal for a sector built on high margin outsourcing. Then comes US revenue slowdown. Because the US is such a huge market, even a small slowdown there can ripple across balance sheets. High touch roles like consulting and project ramp ups could face delays. Deals might take longer to close. Some might not happen at all. And that's before we even talk about the impact of local hiring and automation, which were already squeezing growth. Then comes new barriers for students and startups. It's not just IT engineers. Indian students with pre-placement offers in the US could see those jobs vanish if companies refuse to pay the new fee. Startups that once relied on sending small teams to American clients might have to shut down those plans entirely. Even healthcare is affected. 1 in 5 immigrant doctors in the US is Indian, and they too could face steeper costs. Then comes sector-wide ripple effect. The new visa rules have already triggered panic beyond IT. Travel sites like Make My Trip and Clear Trip report a surge in last-minute flights to the US as people scramble to enter before the new fee hits. But the biggest ripple is psychological. The sense that the old India-US tech corridor is closing, or at least becoming too expensive to use. Then comes changing investor behavior. For retail investors, especially middle-class Indians who have built wealth by investing in TCS, Infosys and HCL, the safe haven is starting to feel like a danger zone. Many are moving money into banks, FMCG or defense stocks. Others are just staying out altogether. But here's where it gets interesting and maybe a little ironic. Some experts believe Trump's move might actually be good for India in the long run. Infosys veteran Mohandas Pai says the fee will force companies to accelerate offshore delivery and grow India's domestic capability centers. Snapdeal co-founder Kunal Bahl predicts a wave of reverse migration with Indian talent returning home and strengthening the local startup ecosystem. In other words, what looks like a policy designed to hurt India might end up supercharging Indian innovation. Engineers who once dreamed of working for Amazon or Microsoft in the US might now join Indian startups, building the next big thing here. And here's the other twist. The US could end up hurting itself. Companies there rely heavily on Indian talent. They can't replace it overnight. If Indian IT firms reduce on-site presence or refuse certain projects, US firms could face delays, higher costs and talent shortages, potentially slowing their own growth. So, is this the end of the IT golden era? Maybe not, but it's definitely the end of business as usual. The $100,000 visa fee is more than a policy, it's a wake-up call. It's forcing Indian companies to rethink strategy, investors to reassess risk, and policymakers to ask tough questions about how to keep talent and capital at home. For decades, our brightest minds left for the US. Now many might stay or return and build the next wave of innovation here. America's loss could be India's century, but only if we move fast and make the right choices. What do you think? Is Trump's visa fee a disaster for India's IT sector or an opportunity in disguise? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe and follow The Edge.